So we talk about inclusion and acceptance, and we say that all people matter to God and to us. It's a big statement. It's to say that everyone, everywhere, matters. So I feel like that statement is just, more than anything to me, it's a convicting statement that I have to live up against and try to live out in my life and call myself to take another person's perspective or to put myself on equal footing with everyone I meet. And that's not always easy to do. I think if you can't include a group, somebody, then you're at risk of dehumanizing. You're at risk of propagating the terrible things in history, right? There's all the things that are bad in the world stem from some people somehow getting marginalized. So you have to take a stand. That's the church's, that's exactly why Jesus came, to say we all matter. And if we don't stand for that, then we don't stand for anything, because that's what Christ asked us to do, to love each other. I think that's really hard. That's really hard. There's a tendency to allow our decisions to be driven by fear, consciously or subconsciously, to say, I have to be safe, I have to have control, I have to keep my kids safe. And so we try to minimize the bad things that could happen, and sometimes at the expense of the important things that need to happen. I think particularly about a homeless woman that I help, and she, sometimes she's not the best person to be around my children. She's reckless, and she has fits of alcoholism, and she can get violent and stuff. And so I have that tension personally. I have to deal with that. And how do I keep, am I ignoring my charge as a mother, my ministry as a mother to serve this woman? Am I being reckless with my children? And yet I think my ministry as a mother is served by my children seeing me serve her. And so I just have to wrestle with that tension, and it's really hard, and it's not clear cut. We have to honor the humanity in people, whatever that means. That's the church's charge, to honor the humanity and to bring the presence of Christ into the world, to connect us to that which God has preordained for us to be included in His love, there is nothing that separates us. There is nothing, right? It's infinitely powerful and can reach us in whatever depths and whatever places we find ourselves. I think we build walls because we cannot, we are not infinite. We are not God. And so we have only so much time, so much money, so much emotional bandwidth. And so we have to make choices because the whole world is out there, and we can't take it on ourselves. And so we have to have some way to delineate who we help and who we don't. But the thing is, the church is not a human being. The church is all of us connected. And as the church, we don't need to do that because we have the resource, we have the emotional bandwidth. We just have to spread it out across ourselves. So we have to get past our individual thinking to be the church, and we have to allow ourselves to take on our own piece of that. We get entangled in our layers of self, our nationality, and our the way we were raised, and we think that these things, because I'm American and because I'm Christian, I'm somehow an American Christian. And so there's layers here that we have to disentangle before we can even think about what it means to live out the gospel. And when I first moved overseas, I think was the first time I actually understood that I had more than one piece of my self-identity, that Christianity is lived out differently in different countries, and that a lot of what we think it means to be Christian is actually what we think it means to be American, and vice versa. Because for a lot of us, those two identities are entangled. Good red, white, and blue love and patriotism and what Jesus stood for aren't necessarily the same, but because we both value both, we have two sets of values, we combine them. So I think first you have to separate them out. And then when you really press yourself to what the gospel is, you have to look at Jesus, and he hung on the cross for every human being and ultimately gave us the command to love each other, period. That's it. It's not that complicated. And that's why you live out your faith, and you meet the people you meet, and you love them the best you can, and you fail sometimes, and you get forgiveness, and you do the cycle again. I think so. I think if you lay down if you separate out who you are, and you get to know someone new, when they really challenge you, but you really challenge them back, and you be honest, and you don't hide behind, well, I'm this, so here's my tax sheet of my political stances. I am voting on column A and not on column B, and therefore if you put on something on column A, because people aren't that straightforward. We don't live in a single column, even though the world wants to divide us that way. Like, divisiveness is just easy to do because it simplifies us, right? And so we can easily say someone is X, and therefore they have all the characteristics of X, but no one actually is that way. We have to recognize that we all are past our stereotype. To say that all people are made in the image of God is to say there is something divine in each of us. There's a piece of God. I think that together, if you took all the best parts of all of us, we could reflect back the image of God. But we only have a piece of it because we're broken, we're fallen, and in our best moments, we can be creative and we can create new things. And in our best moments, we can forgive and we can love and we can reflect back what God breathed into the world. And so I think if we look for that in our neighbor, we can find God around us. I think it's the hard one. I think if you get it right, which I don't think we can, first of all, I think teamwork is easier to measure. You can say, did we as a team accomplish a goal? We came together, we were a team, we accomplished a goal. Or did we do something new that was risky? Yep, check. Did we include and accept everybody for who they are as a child of God? You know, like, our own egos are always going to get in the way of that. Our inability to communicate is going to get in the way of that. Our humanity is going to get in the way of our humanity. And so I think striving to include everybody, putting that up there and saying, we have to, as a church, we have to value this. We have to include, because it is the command of Christ to do so. Yeah, and I think as a community to have the collective focus to reflect on our ability to accept, love, and accept and include pushes us to apologize, pushes us to reach out, pushes us to examine ourselves structurally and individually so that we have a base. because those human things are the center of what makes a church thrive, what makes a community thrive. To know that here we're going to reflect on that, and we're gonna make it right. And if you can honestly do that, you're gonna have some hard conversations. But by having those hard conversations, you don't bury things under a rug to be pushed out for another day, and you actually live out what God is calling us to do. And I think those other things become a lot easier because you have to have a base of vulnerability and a base of, this is what we do here, that is really important.